Hopefully Audra jumps on.
Uh, yeah, it's pretty lightly attended so far, so I would at least give it a couple minutes. Hopefully, we'll see some folks populate the room.
Did everybody have a chance to look at Audra's stuff?
So, yeah, I had a chance to, skim through it as quickly as I could, and try to digest as much as I could. So, yeah, looks like Mark's just hopping on.
Yeah, I
Morning,
was listening to Audra's, I was listening to that video.
Oh, I couldn't hear like it wouldn't start for me. Like, I mean, I got to see all the other documents, but I couldn't see the audio. Or was it a video or was it
No, it's
just
actually a
audio?
recording, just the recording. You can
Uh-huh.
listen to the entire recording.
And it was basically like a AI voice
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of telling
yeah,
us,
whatever.
you know,
Yep.
was it helpful?
Yeah, no, quite helpful.
Oh,
Actually,
I'll try to open it.
very informative.
Hmm.
I thought well done.
morning, Sonia.
Good morning.
Well, I guess we'll give it a minute or two and see if Audra jumps on.
Sonia, did you get all of Audra's emails with our survey results and everything? Was that sent to you as well?
Yes, it was.
Oh, great. Great.
I'm working on our PowerPoint, for 2 o'clock. So
Yeah.
I'll be listening, engaging, but working.
Mhm.
We also waiting for Matt?
I think probably Matt too, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we're missing Matt, Greg, and Audra.
So while we've got everybody here before I know Matt and Audra get on, I know Matt, they sent over on the nitrogen sensitive regulation reference definition. That's one thing, but one thing was I didn't see anything.
4,000 came out of 26 into
Who else?
It might be Pete. I'm not sure whose audio that is, but it stopped.
Okay, so you took 4,000 from the.
Or-
yeah.
If you're not talking, if you could just mute.
Yeah, so I just wanted to I thought Matt was gonna send over what the whole draft regulation was last year so that we could go through, even just to glance through it, just to, if we were gonna be suggesting any minor amendments or whatever to that, and I did not see that.
Fair point, Mark.
Yeah.
Matt did send, that one-page document
Yeah,
along with an email to me and maybe it was to Peter, I'm not sure who else. But basically stating that their draft regs were once again being revised
oh,
and edited. So and haven't gone through internal review yet.
oh,
So his legal staff at DPH and we gave him the direction not to release
squashed
this
it.
reg. So I think it would be best, obviously, if we could all work off the old regs. I'm sure that's somewhere in our emails, but yeah, yeah.
I just think that that's full closure on our part, as much as this effort and everything else has gone into it.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think about it, you start out with a reg, you hopefully end up with a reg with some
yeah,
recommendations out of the
yeah,
reg.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
feel that we've dropped that's kind of like a loose end.
yeah. Matt's email
And if
unfortunately
it's a,
just came to us yesterday, right?
Hmm.
And or not yesterday or the day before, so we got it just recently. I think the end result here is that unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be in a position to be making recommendations to the entire working group this afternoon, right? But I do think that this subcommittee probably needs one or two more meetings, and one of those meetings, or maybe both, need to be focused on specifically on the draft regs,
I
right?
agree.
So
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Uh,
it's with DPH legal, we've got probably about 2 years before they're ready to release anything.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll need to find a copy of the draft regs as they were presented by DPH last year and work off of those. Sonia, you guys already actually have like a breakdown of them, right? In your committee?
So
Or something?
they did convert into Word, but it was published on the website as the proposed regulations, and those were the ones that we were working on because in theory, those were the ones that would have been adopted.
Mhm.
I can send you that right now if you guys want it. That was what we had been working on. And we got the same thing with the changes here and there, but I don't believe we ever actually got a copy. Kind of.
Yeah. Can you send it to Peter just so he can disseminate to the subcommittee?
Absolutely.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, I first I panicked for a second. I walked around the car. And I'm
Good
like,
morning.
David, I think we can just go on with the meeting, to the best of our ability with understanding that DPH and Deep aren't here with us. I don't know if you're talking, but you're muted at the moment.
Thank you. That makes sense to me. So thanks all for taking the time. I went through a little bit of orders, but I did not have time to go through everything. I mean, it's obviously a great effort and we appreciate that. I think we at this late hour probably have to focus on where we started, and that survey opened up a lot more questions, or it seemed to, the way I interpreted it. So if we could focus maybe on where we had consensus, I don't know if we can get to the results of that survey, so we could, I mean, I think we had said the software to track performance of systems in the state, I'll just say broadly. I think there was a very good consensus on that. There was consensus, as I understood it, on the 7,500 gallons a day in non-sensitive areas. I think there was consensus on calling it nitrogen sensitive. Perhaps we didn't know where to draw the lines on that.
David, could I actually pause for just a quick second? If you recall, Matt was saying that the latest version of his regs actually did refer to it as nitrogen sensitive and not environmentally sensitive. So I don't know if we need to even bother identifying that as a consensus item because it's already been dealt with.
So I guess it depends on what the regulations they filed have. If they don't want to give us the updated ones with that reference, we probably still should.
Just so you know, what I gave you guys was what was the updated. So it does have the nitrogen. It's going to be in there. It's not environmentally sensitive. I mean, you guys can do what you want, but it's definitely going to be in there because that's the language. I literally cut and paste. I was just told by my attorneys that just the way things are with sharing the regulations, if there were changes that were made, they have to be vetted a certain way. So that's unfortunately, I can only share with you what I shared with you.
Well, as long as we have, that representation, I'm good with it. If it says nitrogen sensitive now, so be it.
I think the other thing too, David, is if all the information that Audra compiled first by the questionnaire and everybody, and it was great that everybody participated and completed that questionnaire. And the number of the emails that she sent over had various points of summary recommendations and that sort of thing from what came out of that survey and what could be acted on by this committee to make in terms of those recommendations. So there's a lot that's already been compiled. And the question really comes down to is which document in the end of the day do we just, adopt all of them to go over? Or is there any particular one, a summary document that she has that was the high level, so to speak, of what our recommendations are? I mean, there's a lot of information and a lot of data that she sent over. And
Just share my screen with
including
her.
the summary documents. So that's kind of like where I think instead of going through the actual survey, because all that was done. And if you looked at the emails and read the emails, then you would see that what was compiled, and we just have to agree to those summaries.
Well,
Share the
I-
six. Do you mind if I share the 6-point plan that she had put out there? I think that kind of sums up what Mark
Yeah,
was
I
just
think,
talking
I
about.
think you're 100%
And maybe
right.
we
I'm
can
happy
use
to
that
look
as a
at it, but-
basis.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
For the
happy to look at it.
conversation.
My concern, Mark, is that one, we focus on what we all agreed to, and if this helps us do that, that's great. So make a statewide tracking platform, we agreed to that. Tie any regulatory expansion directly to staffing and training capacity. I don't know if we said that or not. Adopt a statewide risk-based framework. I'm not sure if that's exactly how we did it. I mean, I think it is a risk-based perspective, but I don't know if that got clarified in my mind. So clarify and standardize nitrogen sensitive areas. Yep, we all agreed we needed to do that. Implement low controversy, high value policy improvements now. I suppose we said that, didn't we? We wanted to move forward with some and push others back. Expand technology approval using defensible science and CT applicability. I think that's probably more or less what it was. Was there anything else? We said 50 feet, I thought. Was consensus. We didn't have everybody on board, but I think we're lacking that.
Yeah, there was definitely consensus with that in the survey, Dave.
And
Okay,
it's and she also in going through the video or whatever, that was a lot of communication within that, and it was very clear that recommendation was very strong, that 50 feet, and there was consensus to make sure that was part of the recommendations.
Yeah,
So-
my assumption is that you don't see it explicitly stated here, but that would probably fall under number 5, right? As low controversy. High
Right,
value.
but I think if you just look at this as a framework, it all has to be backed up to something. Because if you were just reading this, I don't even know what some of it even means. Some
Yeah.
of it,
agreed.
risk-based framework with clear thresholds. I mean, that's, but again, that comes into the documents that back up this. So every one of these bullet points needs to be supported with something in the backdrop, right behind it. So that when somebody's saying, what does that mean? Well, here it is. Here's the summary, the tracking. This is what came out of it. And this is really what you should be basing your policy on. So that's kind of where it is. This is too broad for me in terms of just signing something like this over without having everything behind it.
Yeah, and I guess and I look to you guys too for advice on it, but I guess uncertainty is we have a group of experts with a lot of knowledge, very specific knowledge. I don't really know how AI trumps that. I've seen it be productive and I've seen it go off in left field. So I'm more comfortable with you, Mark, with Greg, Stu, Jim, everybody, Alicia, than I am betting the farm on AI.
I just want to interject on the 50 feet. I did have a chance to do some research on that. And in the survey, I had put that, yes, I am comfortable with the 50 feet as long as there is some opportunity, if for some reason there needs to be a larger width for environmental protection reasons. And obviously those would have to be proven that there is that option, because I did see that most states have 50 feet, some have 75 or 100. But in the case that there needs to be a larger width, that there is that opportunity.
So you're
I think
saying
that gets
going,
down to nitrogen sensitive areas is where you would have that. You can't have it broad based across, because if you do, it just opens up the box for everybody to just, no, we want more. And I'm
Some,
always
some
careful.
are
with it.
more due to pathogens, not nitrogen.
So I've done a lot of work on pathogen work, whatever. And I can tell you that just by our soil base system that we have, most soils in the state, pathogen removal is very short distance from the system.
Okay.
It
So Mark, but
really
what
There's
is.
a
about
lot
you
of
say
studies.
The
most?
only areas where you have real problems, and that's again, it's sensitive areas where you actually look at alluvial plains and very quick soils. That's where you have your problems. And that's where you
Okay.
get your
So if you
sensitive
say
base.
nitrogen sensitive areas, do those always align with quick soils? I'm only asking questions
Yeah,
to
they have a
understand this
tendency
better.
to do that, Alicia. Unfortunately, that's quick soils are great for hydraulic capacity, but there is no question that they're the ones that have I mean, you even take a look at the DEP standards. When you get into alluvial and quick and Stu can fair to this, that when you get into highly permeable soils, those distances for pathogens could be 70, 100 feet away easily.
Well, if
That
you
is
look
there
at the
with
map,
DE, but wait,
if you
hold
look at
on.
the mass stuff, at the mass testing stuff, you can talk to George.
Yeah.
They've done a lot. There's a federal study on it, a state study out there, and I think it's 5 feet for, I forget, it was a 5 log reduction in 5 feet of a sandy soil.
So Mark, I understand the DEP, but the problem is that does not carry over into the DPH regulations, does it? So that's my concern is we're talking about now DPH having this jurisdiction, and I believe I had qualified my response as soil type and hydrology as being the basis for needing larger. So my question is so you have the 50 feet, but if you have these particular soils that are not in a nitrogen sensitive area, then what happens? And I don't know if Sonia's got her hand raised to answer my questions too, but
Can I talk real quick? Hi. Okay. So, the one thing I wanted to say is that, the commissions are going to set their nitrogen level whenever we say or do. But one thing that I was hoping on was having a fallback, because that's usually what happens. When this all goes to court, we fall back on the Connecticut Health Code, and pretty much it's going to be 10. So, like, even having a fall safe as like a 7, it's going to go back to that 10. In a nitrogen sensitive area, I would think that you should be more protective and a little concerning with nitrogen issues, because those are usually the ones that have very, very sandy soils that are going to go right through. So, I wish we could sit there and say inland wetlands is really isn't, and it may impact environmentally protection wise, but having this regulation as prescriptive as possible for sanitarians to do is really important. Again, I was really hoping you guys were going to take a look at that nitrogen limit for nitrogen sensitive areas as well. And the reason being is because we don't want commissions setting public health limits versus environmental protection limits. I don't know if that helps, Alicia, but.
Well, Alicia, the other thing we discussed, and I think Matt, this was going about a month or so. I think you were on the call. We had this discussion about pathogens, and we had it, I guess, practically speaking, we discussed where do we see these issues? I think Sonia was involved. And the question is, are we seeing pathogen issues in our wells all over? The DPH handles well water, and it's just not something we're empirically seeing across the state. So I personally think, the science we could support. George would certainly be happy to do that with the latest testing. And I believe it's 5 log reduction in 5 feet. It might have been 3 feet, but everything I see says we need to focus on the nitrogen here.
yeah, well, Mark already satisfied my question about pathogens. But my question is still, if you have alluvial soils that are not in a nitrogen sensitive area, what happens then? Does it still stay at those
The
50
same
feet?
thing, Alicia. So alluvial soil, sand would be an alluvial soil. So I believe George's testing will speak towards that. But I also think, and Matt, I think opined that none of us were really aware of very, very, very few situations where you have, even in some substandard conditions where variances are granted, you're still not seeing, I think, Greg, you felt that way. We're not seeing, well, well water contamination all over.
I mean, that's
No.
a fair statement for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The water contamination is surface contaminants getting into a well or wildlife. So not septic based.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
But guys, remember one thing with private wells, we don't exactly have a statewide database where all the private well water testing goes into. I understand what you're saying, but private well regs are very antiquated and it doesn't, I know there's not an issue here, but we really don't have that data to say we do or we don't if we don't actually have that information in a place to get it. Because I know a couple areas in my place have elevated
But
nitrogen.
with the group on this call, we should all be aware of, there's enough people on this call would have knowledge of it if it was a significant issue. And I think we're hearing it's not. Is that unfair, or do we want to circle back and worry about pathogens? What do you
No,
guys
I
think?
mean, I don't, pathogens have not been an issue for us all these years, I can tell you. It's because our soils are just that way. Guys, I gotta take this call. It's
All right, so Matt, you comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, I see Sonia's point because she's saying we don't have a lot of data on private wells, but I'm speaking from my experience in the drinking water wells, which are no different per se, but we rarely see that. And then just my years, discussing with local health departments on, E. coli contaminations, most of the time they're attributed to something other than a septic system.
Agreed. I agree with you, Matt. Absolutely. That's been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's consensus that we're not going to start down the pathogen road with respect to this 50 feet. All right. So we're at this point, we can formally recommend 50 feet, I think is what we're saying. So that's great. So do we want to go back through and what we've clearly defined? I mean, I have Audra's list. I saw that, but I think just coming up with some very clear, if we could go through your regs, Matt, ultimately, and I guess basically redline them, that'd be very helpful. Maybe that's our next effort.
I think Jim did share with you what I did give you guys.
Yes.
And so my recommendation is if you guys are gonna you want to settle on the 50 feet, take what we said and look at because I did give the reference to what the boundary is in a nitrogen sensitive area, and take the one that references inland wetlands, and then come up with the language that is gonna marry that 50 foot to that, because I think that wetlands boundary is, again, the reference we made would be, again, for each town. So I don't know if that terminology would be the same. Would it be delineated wetlands 50 feet, something like that? But then what's the protocol for delineating wetlands? Like, it'd be nice if there's a specific regulatory reference that can be made.
Well, Matt, I think there is. I think each plan that we put out, and I'm sure it's the same for Mark, has inland wetlands and tidal wetlands delineated as appropriate.
Okay.
The standard way that it's done in Connecticut is by using a soil scientist. Sometimes there's ecological considerations, but the actual flags are placed by a soil scientist. I think Jim found the citation in the statutes. It's like 29A 62 or whatever is the inland wetland enabling statute. So you simply say, in accordance with the Inland Wetland and Watercourses Act, inland wetlands are identified in accordance with that act.
Okay.
And they are so mapped on the plan that you've got. And that's what you work off of. That's a little bit more encompassing than the way that, for instance, the technical standards, I think, say 50 feet from a water course, for instance. this, we've always taken that to mean wetlands or water courses, so you stay back, away from there. So, this will be a little more comprehensive than that. And you'd be working off the same benchmark that every inland wetland and water courses commission in the state would be working from. And when there's tidal wetlands in the CAM, in the coastal areas, the same thing holds. Most towns regulate tidal wetlands through their zoning commission. Most, not all, but most. But the same thing holds. You're going to identify and I think too, we usually use the coastal jurisdiction line, which is set from a regulatory standpoint. That's set by elevation, and there's a series of elevations for each town that are available that we utilize, and that's identified on the maps. So either way, it'll be a very standardized way of doing it.
But my point is that so that way you guys get exactly what you want. I would provide as much detail and reference in this proposal. So it's important that you guys do that and think this through, which I'm definitely amenable to. I mean, this is actually what I had hoped that this committee would do, would take what we had proposed and polished it up, because, there's probably details that we may or may not have missed. And that's what we need from this committee.
Well, Mark, do you agree that what I said about how they're delineated?
Stu, there's one area that I'd like to bring up, and it's statutory, and you got to remember, everything is soil based, but there's always been a area of controversy, and that's that alluvial floodplains are considered as a wetland, believe it or not, in the state of Connecticut. They're mapped.
They are, yeah. You're
so
right,
what
Mark.
happens is, how do you can, it's purely acceptable to put a septic system in an alluvial floodplain. It's a 100-year storm. It's done all the time. So how do you that needs to be understood, that the wetlands is an actual wetlands boundary exclusive of alluvial floodplains. I've had mapping where I've mapped a wetland on a edge of an alluvial floodplain, and I've mapped the alluvial floodplain. If you do not take that into consideration, you're going to have, excuse me, a shit show.
Well, and isn't it, Mark? It's alluvial soils. I don't even think it's alluvial floodplains it's referenced.
It's just alluvial soils. You're right. It's not even but most alluvial soils a lot of them are in the floodplain. But you're right. It's an alluvial soil. And state of Connecticut, you map those as a wetland, and they are regulated by a wetland commission.
No, thank you for bringing it. And most of them don't even know it, but thank you for, we should clarify that. Yep.
We need to clarify that in the regs. We cannot let that go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You good, Stu?
Yep.
All right. So Matt, maybe we'll go, do you guys want to go over Matt's document first, or do you want to try to figure out where we have consensus first?
Chairman's prerogative.
All right, let's go over Matt's.
Could you put it on the screen by any chance, Dave? Is that possible? I think I sent it digital, or somebody could. Jim,
somebody
is that possible?
could, hopefully.
Was it sent out? I can grab it and put it up.
Yeah, this is the nitrogen sensitive area regulation references.
Oh, right. Okay, the one that Peter sent out, right?
Yes.
The one pager.
One page.
Yep.
One page Word document.
Oops, that's the agenda.
Sure, I can share it.
All right, you're okay. Go ahead, because still getting used to my new inbox.
Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep, got it.
Yep.
All right, so what do you guys think about that?
I just want to know what sections 12.3.2 and 12.3.1, so I understand the distinctions that are different in the technical standards.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Jim, could you just maybe zoom that in just a tad? I think towards the bottom, you see the plus and minus on the screen? Bottom right. So
22A dust, the statutory references are in the Inland Wetlands Act.
well, I think Mark's question was this, the details. So the 12.3.2 and the 12.3.1. Okay,
Yep.
so I'll elaborate on what those are. Those are basically the first one. Let me see which one. I had a hard time seeing, guys. I should grab some glasses. Oh, okay. So the first one, 12.3.2, it's going to be in the technical standards. And what it basically says is it references the deep manual. So basically what number I says is that if you're in a nitrogen sensitive area, then you are going to have to follow the deep nitrogen protocol. Okay, so that's where 12.3.2 it's going to be referenced in the technical standards, and then II is 12.3.1 is simply going to be that what I call the rudimentary formula where we were talking about just the basic formula. So that's where this stuff's going to be referenced. And again, it was purposely put in there so that way then put in the technical standards rather than the regulations, because then if these things need to be tweaked, we can do that and not go through this process. And by the way, you guys can see that we actually changed, probably shouldn't say this, but this is aligned with what you guys are asking. In other words, that the 5,000 threshold for nitrogen evaluation is only for sensitive areas, and the non-sensitive areas start at 7,500. So this has already been updated to reflect that, in addition to the fact that we already mentioned that it says nitrogen sensitive areas.
Yep. Matt, can I ask what the purpose is in subsection 3 of identifying owned by same person? Is that new to the statute, or is that an addition? And
Yeah,
if
good
so,
question.
what's the purpose?
You got it. So as you guys know, when we had consultations with DEEP, the whole contiguous, this has to do with the contiguous properties. Okay, so this is consistent with the contiguous properties. When we look at design flow, we're also going to consider nitrogen as well. So in other words, if you have a neighboring property under the same ownership, then that nitrogen has to be considered. So it would be the same thing that you would do for just the design flow in general, but in this case, it would also include the nitrogen. And that's just because that's what the consistency with what's already required right now of contiguous properties.
Right. So would this be addressing a scenario by which an individual would develop an LLC to develop, property A and property B independent of each other?
Correct. I mean, in a way, that would be a way to circumvent, in this case, it would not only circumvent the design flow jurisdiction criteria, but it would also circumvent the nitrogen.
But the current language, doesn't it, it says property, it's like property owner or something. I think inserting person here, I would think there's gonna be a legal argument that says Dave Potts owns 100 acres, he subdivides it into 250 acres. Dave Potts starts LLC 1 and Dave Potts starts LLC 2. They're two separate owners of that property. However, there's not two separate persons, Matt.
Well, you brought up a really good question. Well, first of all, this is something that our attorneys came up with. So, and if you guys think that that's something that needs more scrutiny, please, we should mention it. But I will mention something right now that we actually have something before them, and that is, you mentioned the 3 LLCs, LLC 1, 2, and 3. We actually have asked for a legal take on what if each LLC has the same members? Yeah. Does that still constitute? Because historically, we don't look at that.
Yeah. This whole thing, this is exactly what we've been dealing with forever.
Right.
Matt is correct. the same members, the same officers in a corporation and everything. It all kicks it. It's a catch-all. That's why I object to the whole thing. I
Right.
object to I, and I'm not going to change my tune on this. It's wrong. It's nonsense. There's no environmental benefit. It's nothing but a bureaucratic bunch of crap. Sorry. But anyway, that's exactly what happens, what Dave asked about. He can have two LLCs. He can be the lone member in one of them. But the way around it is, you know, he's a member and then someone else in his organization is the member in the other LLC. That's how people do it. That's the standard way of
Right.
getting
I mean,
around.
obviously, I would say that if we did want to address it, we would address it in the way that Stu proposed to begin with, right? I think his plan initially would have, resolved that issue because it would no longer be a separation of boundaries that would basically dictate how one would build. So I agree with Stu. Like I think that that's probably a section I would like to see removed as well. And I guess I'd go further to ask about G as well. Any other plan elements is required by the department? Is that
what does that mean, Matt?
I mean, is that a catch-all that just says you guys can regulate whatever in any way, shape, or fashion you like, or is that?
You know what? Honestly, I probably shouldn't have put that in there because I didn't look at this that great, to be honest with you, because I just cut and paste because I was so late getting this to you guys. I don't think that has anything to do with this. I think you see how it's F and G. I think there's an E and obviously let's say an A through G, and the title it's whatever this title of this section is, and it doesn't have to do with this. Okay, so I probably shouldn't have included G. So G, just scratch that altogether because that's not.
It's out of context.
Thank you. Yes.
Still makes me nervous though.
I agree. Listen, by the way,
it's currently that if you look at the standards right now, that language is in there. The department gets to ask if there's anything that they need in addition. It's all regulators do it. Look at every zoning regulation out there. And as required by P&Z if they want extra information. It gives them the ability to ask for something more, period. So it's in it's in there now.
Okay. No, I mean, just looking at this page face value, obviously it just raised a red flag to me. But
just real quick, Jim, this is all, I mean, once, let's say this goes through, we are going to have to revet the whole thing anyway with those changes, those minor changes. So you're going to have an opportunity to make comments on that as well. So no worries on that.
Okay,
Well,
so I just want to back up to one thing just for a moment and make sure we're all on the same page here. So under the definition of nitrogen sensitive area, right at the top of the page, means an area located blah, blah, blah. Are we all in agreement that it's going to say such nitrogen sensitive area does not include alluvial soils unless designated or unless identified as an inlet, a soil in the above paragraph?
Well, the second part has to be changed though. So you're going to go with the coastal boundary, and then where the comma is, that whole thing has to be changed because right now it's basically saying the regulated area per each jurisdiction. So that whole thing's going to have to be changed.
We get it. What I'm saying is I think you need to add a sentence after that saying, because it could be in the coastal boundary area or it could be in the upland area. You could have those alluvial soils there. So you're going to say, does not include alluvial soils unless identified as inland wetlands per the above.
Yeah, I think that's marketed proposed exclusive of, right? The 50 would be exclusive, so I think so.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure we're all on that one. Okay.
So I want to circle back to the bottom there to G. I also want to go on record saying I think we need to define whatever the department needs, that's fine, but I think we should define that so people know what's in play. And then I think also if for that three little I, we should really stick with the same language that has been there historically, because there's all sorts of case law on that and policy and practice. If we go and add or change that, so as long, Matt, as that's the same exact language, great.
Yes.
If it's not, then I think we got to all be very careful.
It is. And just one quick thing. I see Sonia's on here. I hate to put you on the spot, Sonia, but you were part of either CADH or whoever. And when we originally vetted these changes, I don't have that document, but that we could share with the group. In other words, the original regulatory changes that was shared with the groups, that does exist somewhere. I don't have that copy. That was already vetted publicly. That can be shared with the group, and that would show you the context of item G. Because again, the changes that have been made since that are very superficial. Well, superficial in terms of at least they're not, the whole thing's not restructured. Obviously, as I told you, it's a nitrogen sensitive area now. And then the design flows have been changed as well, consistent with what we asked. But if Sonia, if you happen to have that somewhere.
I sent it already. So the proposed regulations that were posted for comment, I'm assuming that's what you mean, but yes. So I did send those over to Jim and Peter, if you want to, I don't, Jim, did you get it?
Perfect.
Send out to the group.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has
sent them
that
out.
right, yeah, go ahead. Now we could actually put that on the screen because that section there, you can actually, then we can see what the context is. I mean, if you guys want to do that now, it's up to you.
I have it up. What page is it on?
Oh,
Or
geez.
no, go ahead, Greg. I think Greg or whoever has it up now is working on it.
I'll
Yeah,
stop sharing if you want. Someone else wants to put it up.
Page, just look at the table of context in the beginning and just look where nitrogen requirements are. And I think you'll find it.
I don't, there's no table of contents on this part.
Oh,
Hold on,
that's
I'm just
true.
gonna do a quick
sorry.
search for
I'm
nitrogen.
thinking, you're right, there isn't. I'm thinking our technical standards. My wires are getting crossed. Maybe just a
Way to
word.
find those.
All right, hold on a second. I got it here.
Matt, do you
I
want me to
think.
send the technical standard draft too?
Yeah, I mean, if the group wants to see that too,
that's the
it'll
one.
have those references.
Give me a few minutes.
Okay, am I in the right place here? Yes, this is it. Okay, so if we go up, let's
That's page
see.
13?
We got A, B, C, D. Okay, yep.
You might want to increase the size of this a little bit, Alicia, just so, because it
Sure.
is a little tiny. Yeah, just go up.
Okay, so
Yeah,
just so everyone can see the
beautiful. We
title
can
of
see
this
it.
section, plan submitted shall include but not be limited to the following. So here we go. There is that. Is that the right spot?
Well, it's one of the right spots, but it's
After it's
exactly what
changed.
Dave said. This is all new stuff. This isn't what it said before. These are
Was
all
this the stuff
additions.
that DPH attorney said we weren't supposed to see?
No, not at all. No, this is not new. I'm thinking there's another section.
Okay, let me
Well, there's
scoot
enough
down.
here there's enough right there to be talking about. All of this stuff is
Okay.
new.
Oh, this is it. This is, oh, no, it's not.
That's what I had up before.
Yeah, no, this is not, because
Well-
there's no eyes and stuff like that.
You're right, Stu. It's new, but it's new based on the original proposed.
Yeah, I know the
draft
edits. Yeah,
regulation.
they're edits.
Yeah.
But
Well,
typically
actually, we
they
can
wouldn't
just
be
see if we go
underlined.
above this, what that G is. If we could see what the title of this section is. Okay. Oh, there you go.
That's the header on it.
Yeah, so it's just
And
saying what
above that
Mark had said.
is
Yeah. That's right. So it's large sewage disposal systems, and then it's saying the plan shall contain. And then the last item G is just under the context of the plan shall contain and any other plan element as required by the department. So again, it doesn't really have anything to do with nitrogen necessarily. It just means any large plan, you know.
Oh, that's a little more bounded and defined. I'm more comfortable with that.
Good.
Not that we should leave it in this list in a vacuum, but in your page, but if that's how it comes across, that'd probably be more palatable.
Yep, that's definitely where it is. I can tell you.
All right.
Okay, so
what
I
do
would
we-
say
how do you guys want to move forward? You want to try to nail down what we got consensus on?
Do you want me to stop sharing? Do we need this anymore?
No, this is being sent over though. This is something that we all can look
It's in
at.
everybody's inbox right now.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
so stop share. Cool with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Sure.
I say
All
we
right,
go
so-
back to what I sent you guys and you guys work on that. We work on that language to get that wetlands setback.
We'll do that, Matt. We're gonna not give you it undefined. We're gonna all be very comfortable that it's defined. So
Perfect.
that we're clear on. So
Good.
the next thing, I guess, is the CAM line, right? We agree to the 50-foot. The next proposal is define it by the CAM line.
What's CAM line? I'm sorry.
Coastal Area Management Line?
So you got, is that what we originally had on our proposal?
You did.
Okay,
yes.
good. And you guys are okay with that? So we just tweaking.
I'm putting the question on the table now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, unfortunately, I've heard reference to a CAM map. I've never actually seen the CAM map, and I don't know, like what kind of distance from the shoreline we're talking about, right? I mean, maybe Sonia, you might be able to shed light.
Well, I know that if you're like doing work in a CAM zone, then you have to go through this whole inland well or tidal zoning thing with DEP. They're designated, yeah. So we would have them, and I believe that sometimes even on our engineer plans that we're reviewing, they put it on there as well.
Can I ask, if a town is identified as in a CAM map, is it the entire town?
No.
Or is it a portion of the town that's adjacent
Portion.
to
it's a delineation that is a setback from various coastal resources as defined by the state statutes.
So
Does it refer to the Coastal Wetlands Act? Is it tied to that?
I don't remember whether it is or not. It probably is, but anything which is a coastal resource, other than coastal flood hazard zones, there's a setback from that. I forget whether it's 1,000 or 2,000 feet, but basically they just draw a line, as a setback based on the other mapping that the state already has.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's a map that's designated in statute, right? So it has to be tied to
it's been around,
a specific
it's been
agency
around
map or a federal map.
Yeah, it's been around for 40 years. I just don't remember what the setback is, but in Old Saybrook, basically, call it half of the town south of 95 is in it. And that's pretty common for most of the coastal towns, south of 95, right, Sonia? It's about something like 50% of the town.
I would agree with that. Although
I forget whether it's 1,000 or 2,000, but it's a standardized setback from the resources.
If you just do a quick Google search on Connecticut coastal management area, it brings up an overview of Connecticut's coastal management program. And it does look like the tidal wetlands as well as structure and dredging fill statutes are referenced. So all of those statutory references are there in that one document.
Alicia, is there a plan that's if you can find a CAM plan, maybe even an example to show the group? I'm not familiar with those websites myself.
Do you want me to just send this link over to Peter? He can send it to everybody. I'm assuming this is what everybody's looking for. I will do that.
Yeah. CAMs are pretty well identified. Even each municipality has it on their GIS. So it's not something that you can just ignore. It's there and it's been clearly defined, as Stu pointed out. And it's undebatable. That's the other thing.
That's helpful. I mean, that's honestly, we want something quick, down and dirty, easy, no question.
Yeah.
Well, you are or you're not.
And the one thing that does come up that I guess I'll circle back to an earlier question about, I think Jim asked if if a town has some component of it in the CAM area, are all properties in there in the CAM area? And the answer is no, but if any portion of a property is touched by the CAM line, the entire property is subject to the coastal area management regulations.
Interesting. Hmm.
That's the
I
way,
guess
that's the way it's set up. And that's the way when we make coastal area management, the CAM applications, that is the test, is if any part of it is touched by the line, you're in.
Wouldn't you
So
just
I-
subdivide the property then? Like
Well,
if
you
I was,
could see this, yeah, they could,
okay, all right.
I guess, yeah. It depends on the property, but
Jim, I've got to run. Unfortunately, I got just a call that I got to go take care of something. So,
All right, see you, Mark.
okay. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Yep. Bye.
So
I mean,
I do have
David,
one,
can I just say
I
that,
do have-
like, I would
I have
like
one
to see,
question on this. I have one point that I want to make. And so when Stu put forth his proposal, there's a lot of talk about arbitrary and a lot of talk about lines not affecting anything. There was a lot of talk about how water flowed underground in different ways. So I just want to point out that this is like this is very ironic to me that we now flip this around, because you could very well have a piece of property where the water flowed from that piece of property across the CAM line, so it's no longer governed, right? And guess what? So it's like we have to decide if we're gonna go arbitrary lines or we're gonna go science. We keep going back and forth here. And
yeah, David, I wouldn't mind a combination of the two, right? Like that it's a nitrogen sensitive area unless, determined by whatever, testing that you guys can do states that, there is a lack of nitrogen identified in that area. I mean, is
That's
Yeah,
what
and-
deep's for, guys. That's what deep's for. You want to do that kind of thing, then you're out of the prescriptive code realm, and then you go to deep, and then you can do it that way. I mean, we have a prescriptive code. They are arbitrary. They are just setback distances. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it, for certain other situations, it may not make as much sense.
But Matt,
it's a trade-off.
This is exactly the argument used against Stu, right? The simple response to all of Stu's arguments are, hey, it's prescriptive, we're good. Right? I just want to point out that we're doing the opposite here that we did to Stu when he tried to simplify this. We need to recognize that.
That may be so, but like I said originally, if we went through to make the changes Stu wants, then that is going to change everything, including the way Deep writes its regulation or has it. Their statutes would have to be amended and everything else. So this is going to just kick the door down, and it's going to, we're not going to get to the July deadline. I mean, that's why we just have to stick with what we have. I mean, not to say that this isn't something important, but I just don't think you're going to get that in the time frame that we're looking for if we start messing with that.
So to acknowledge that there's a timing issue here, David. It could be that our recommendation is the nitrogen sensitive area, as we all agree it to be, with the definition altered the way we just discussed, and then maybe like something directing an additional recommendation directing DPH to develop an off-ramp that allows for testing.
To fine tune it. That's where kind of my head would be is we recognize because of the time we adopt this now. However, going forward, we need to look at, the scientific validity of that. Is there a better way to do it?
Yeah, that any new adoption of the regs should also include the off-ramp after this next iteration is adopted.
Yeah, and Matt, my concern here is the housing cost, right? If there's areas, maybe there's a watershed where there's a hill right along the sound, and it kicks all that water somewhere else. You know, and so that whole area there might be a really good development area, right? Because it's going to be protective, it's going to be cost effective. If there's a way that we can help with the cost of development in the state, but not harm the environment, I think we have that obligation to try.
I mean, I see your point. I definitely do. I just think, that's what deep would be. I mean, then you could just argue, well, then, deep needs more resources. So then that would be another pathway that a developer could take to prove that his property need not do X, Y, Z because of their specific site conditions. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just we have a prescriptive code, and the reason for it is so it makes things go quick, it's down and dirty and easy. And sometimes, it's not fair to everybody just because it is that line drawn in the sand, and it might not make sense all of the time, but 99% of the time it does work and it does make sense. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just a series of trade-offs, what you want to trade.
Why couldn't it be a dealer's choice, Matt, though, right? Like, so like a developer can say like, hey, I have a hunch that, there really isn't a nitrogen issue here. However, for expediency purposes, I am just going to go with the prescriptive regulations. Or a developer can say like, well, I don't think there is a nitrogen issue here. Why don't I go ahead and do some additional testing? And, so no one's saying that like, we should just, it's very likely that a developer may very well say, I choose expediency and go the way of the prescriptive route.
Well, let me give you guys one perspective here, and I think I got an answer for you guys that you might not want that. And when I've seen a lot of NIMBYs, okay, with these projects, and especially Sonia's going to appreciate this, and especially I have Fairfield County too. So they have the neighbors have more money than God, and they hire engineers to critique that engineer that you just hired. And they're gonna blow holes, and they're gonna bog this project down because they're gonna go back and forth, and they're gonna say no. When you just have a black or white code, it's either it is or it isn't. We don't allow that kind of debate. It is and that works to your advantage as a developer because you can say it meets state code. See you later, that whenever. But if you open the door for something like that, then you're opening the door for that neighbor that hires another engineer to critique that and say, well, I'm in a disagreement, and then just bog the whole thing down. I see that a lot. So you gotta, sometimes it seems like a good idea, but that might be opening yourself up for delay.
But that's, I mean, Matt, we're having that today, right? So we're having it already. So doing this next step won't change it a bit. What we proposed was we define things that the DPH has sole authority over nitrogen assessments. I don't know where we got with that. And that might be Sonia's group.
Well, that's going to take more time. So let's say we do go with Jim's approach. And again, and this is good. This is called debate, but that takes more time for us to review. So then it's going to slow down our review time, right? Because we're going to be having to get into these comprehensive analysis and things like that. So there is going to be a trade-off. There's always going to be a trade-off with whatever you do. You're going to have to, you're not going to get the project approved as fast as you want now. So I don't know, but
I'm acknowledging that, Matt, right? I'm acknowledging that there's a prescriptive and expedited way. And then there is a way that if a developer did the cost benefit analysis and said, I'm confident that there is not a nitrogen issue here. I'm willing to take the extra, regulatory steps to go down this path and save myself money on the back end. It's just like giving one additional option and to allow for that science specific determination.
Hey, Sonia,
sorry.
You're next, Sonia.
Yeah.
You guys done?
Well, I'll circle back after Sonia because I have an answer.
Oh no, I want to get in on this.
Hold on, Sonia, let's finish this topic. Is it on this topic or is it? All right, go ahead.
So one of the things that we're talking about, and we're actually going to be talking about it too, and Matt, you actually know what I'm probably going to say here, is, maybe I phrased it wrong in a simplified appeals process more as a technical advisory committee, because that stuff is going to happen. And you're right. It's sometimes maybe it could be argued down scientifically, but should it be argued down scientifically and proven to the sanitarian, the health director, or people that are actually doing this all the time, meaning a technical advisory? I definitely should have phrased it that way, Matt, before when I was talking about a simplified appeals process, because this is where I see time is money, and this is where people get locked in. So if a developer were to come down and try to fight something, they're not fighting local health, they're going to be fighting DPH. And, you know, it should be a way of saying it's not black and white or cut and dry. If we have some kind of regulatory, not say regulatory, sorry, people that's an engineer,
Like a
soil
board.
scientist, someone who
A
comes to a
board.
committee and can, I think kind of like what they do in the building stuff. And that's kind of, I was really happy with DAS. So I should have definitely phrased that better. And I will definitely after having this conversation with you guys. But yes, I agree. Developers can get stopped up, and it may not be an environmentally bad thing that they're trying to do, but it just looks that way because of how prescriptive our code is. So I just want to mention.
All right. So going back to what Matt just said about being concerned again about prescriptive, non-prescriptive, you know, your point about the NIMBYs, they're coming anyway. They're going to always find a way to come at you. I get it almost every time I represent somebody in front of one of the commissions. There's several of these guys that's all they do now. They don't actually design anything. All they do is run around and complain. They're worse than lawyers. That makes you feel good, right, Jim? So then the other part of that, and to be honest, I am not sure exactly where I fall on this one, whether it is a good idea or not. I could, you know, I think if having additional options is generally a good thing. You know, the developers, you know, look, they're looking at it from what's it going to cost me? How much time is it going to take? All of those considerations are there. If you give them another tool in their toolbox, which you can regulate, which has some reasonable definition, it makes sense to me to give them the tool. But having said that, the analogy here is the same as I have a site. We just had this discussion at our last meeting. We have a site with less than 18 inches to groundwater. What do? You go do a load test, you take some permeability tubes. We do something like that. That is outside of prescriptive code. So there is a precedent for that in the health code. Same kind of thing. Sick your engineer on it and let him go at it. You can set I think in my mind, if I'm understanding the request, you can set a pretty easy bar to satisfy that. In other words, we're saying, okay, is this a nitrogen sensitive area? How do you determine that? What have we been talking about the whole time? Take samples. You set a couple of monitor wells, you pull some water and you look. What's the background that's there? It either has the nitrogen or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then, you know, the underlying premise of nitrogen sensitive area by virtue of location in the watershed and other development in the watershed, then that probably falls apart. Absent that, I don't know what other information, you know, Dave might have in mind. I'm not a big model guy.
No,
this is what's bothered me is the DEP, you know, is always pushing model, but there's never backup data.
Agreed.
You know, we got these great models.
I agree with you 100%, Stu. I think it would either be concentration based or what we'd really be doing. If you look at other states, take Cape Cod, their nitrogen sensitive areas are pretty well defined by watershed. So let's just say we pass this as the CAM for now. What I'm suggesting is maybe next year or so, we would look at that line and say, hey, this watershed, the CAM line is not aligning with watersheds, right? So you would move the line around a little bit. You just would adjust the CAM line is how I'm envisioning it if things like watersheds are off. And that addresses that aspect. But I think if there are areas that are significantly, I'm just going to say undeveloped, if there was a 1,000-acre tract of land on the Long Island Sound and it had no load of nitrogen to it, and we want to help with housing costs, if there's no environmental benefit to the sound, why wouldn't we help those people and not force them to spend, 2 or 3 times as much on a septic system?
So
Ask
I'm
a
just trying.
question based on this discussion. So we're talking about 50 feet based on the delineations of inland wetlands and water courses, correct? Now,
Yes.
I'm going to give you a situation where, let's say you have an open water body that is on the has a TMDL for nitrogen. Okay, so would for the folks of you who are installers, practitioners, understand soil science, is that 50 feet enough where that subsurface system will not contribute to the nitrogen load for that surface water body?
I
Well, I think the answer is almost every discharge contributes. The question is whether it contributes more than what is, whatever the TMDL is in this thing. So if we're picking 10, I always use 10 just because that's been our standard. If you're below 10, as a site, then your portion going into that water body is below the drinking water standard.
Yeah.
The other way to
Yeah,
look at
but
it too,
that gets back to the concern I've always had, which is that cumulative impact. And you were talking about watersheds, David, and sort of the cumulative impacts. And with the
but
50-foot setback not necessarily being tied to a no nitrogen issue in an area, that could be problematic. And I'm
well,
talking about inland here, not
yeah.
not coastal.
No, we get you, Alicia, and here's I think where you're going, and let me see if I can frame this a little better. When you look at the nitrogen that's discharged from a site, and some of it comes from septic systems, some of it comes from stormwater. There's a lot of sources. Some
Yeah.
of it's natural, right? It's
understand.
coming from
Yeah.
wherever. It goes down into the soil. And between the point at which it goes into the soil and the point of a water body, there's some natural attenuation. Some of it is taken up
Understood.
by vegetation, right? There is some
Yep.
denitrification. But there is we're going to call it a reasonable limit to the distance from the point source to where that attenuation starts to drop off. So you've gotten rid of the majority of it, or about as much as you're going to, in a certain distance. And I think that George Heufelder spoke to a little bit of that in his talk. What was that, 2 months ago? But so what you're faced with is picking something like 50 feet. You're giving it some reasonable distance for that natural attenuation to take place. Absent, if beyond that, though, the distance, you could increase the distance to 1,000 feet on a given piece of property, and you're still going to see the same amount of nitrogen that's going to go into the pond. The distance doesn't really help you that much in terms of the overall nitrogen load.
Okay, so
It's-
at that point, what you
it's
would
basically
need is a nitrogen, a system like an alternative treatment system that actually has its own nitrogen removal. If you actually wanted that system to not contribute to the loading within that area that has a TMDL.
Well, yeah, it depends to how far you want to go. If you're at a zero, if you're saying you can contribute zero, you can't really have a property because there's always going to be some. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. There's,
Okay,
from a
I
developer
understand. Thank you.
standpoint, it's kind of impossible to do.
Okay, thanks. I understand.
But I think we have to, I think we've agreed at this point, we've agreed to the 50 feet. We really have to move on at this point. We can't circle back. We're never going to get through this. So that's why I wanted to make sure we had consensus. We all agreed. So I think.
Dave, you're
we
the one that
really
brought
gotta
up the whole watersheds and protecting stuff, so that I'm just bringing up that scenario to try to understand
But
how the
all right,
current.
from a 50-foot perspective, I think we agree. So with respect, it just seems that if we adopt the CAN line today, or whenever it goes through Matt, then have an opportunity to fine tune that going forward, I think that would make sense. Is everybody comfortable with that? At least it's some progress?
So Dave, then your recommendation is to say you're using the CAM map, but that you recommend that DPH design some methodology by which that can be modified. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
Yeah, that CAM line. So for this revision, it's the CAM line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then after this revision, there's an effort to fine tune the CAM line or B also. If you have a site with very low nitrogen on it for whatever
Yeah.
reason, then that
Okay.
would be another.
So you're saying that this would kind of be a long-term rather than the immediate goal. You know, the
That's
immediate
what I'm
goal is
proposing.
basically what we've agreed to, what Matt has written.
It's a
subject to
compromise,
the
right?
other things.
Obviously,
Yeah. So
I would
later
prefer that
on.
it be incorporated right now. But I understand that Matt is under the gun with timing. But it's something that I'd like to see available moving forward. So I'm comfortable with recommending that this be addressed down the road. Maybe with the next, not the 2026 July iteration of the recommended regulations, but the next iteration thereafter.
Is everybody good with that? Hearing no objections, so we got that checked off. All right, so I've got tracking program. We're all agreed to that too. Something that's broad-based, that the public could access, that could be used for approvals, that could be used for enforcement, whatever it might be. That I think we checked off too.
Yep.
All right, and then what are the other ones we have? So funding.
This is where I think we can use some of the bullet points that came out of the survey.
Well, let's try to go. We had our bullet points. Let's see how they maybe look
Which
at
bullet
first.
points are you looking at? Are you looking at Jim's bullet points that he had sent around? Because
Yeah, from like 2 weeks ago is what I'm going back to for now, just to noodle through those, and then maybe we'll get on to those other thoughts that came out of the survey. So we had on-site wastewater septic system staffing with the goal of improving project turnaround time. That we're still all in agreement on? Anybody opposed? All
Dave, you're
right.
looking at consensus number 2 from the draft from a couple weeks ago.
This says Nitrogen Environment Committee draft recommendations. I'm on consensus number 2 now.
Okay, got it. Yep.
All right, so A is a check. Data collection needed to scientifically develop regulations. So I guess we're saying we want funding for that. That, I guess, if we want that, I guess we need funding for it. So is that, anybody objecting to that? All right, check.
No objection. Nope.
So can I just suggest that if you do look at Audra's recommendations, she basically says that the funding should be tied with the implementation, or I think there was consensus in the question that funding should ultimately be tied to any sort to the data collection prior to any sort of additional AT regulation being determined, right? If I'm I'm paraphrasing a bit, but if I recall correctly from her results that was the case.
I think so. I mean, maybe I guess in a backdoor way, right? We want funding for this. We want this software or I'll say program, maybe software is too limited. And I think we've all agreed we don't have enough information to develop the AT regulations right now. So I guess, yes. But I don't know if it was, I don't know does it connect the dots together that exact way? That's why I was hoping to go through this way to start and then go through hers and see if maybe if we could morph it.
Yeah.
And then so C, including funding for education, training in local health districts, establishment of continuing education, certifications for sanitarians, designers, and installers. So any objections to that? All right, hearing none, I'm putting a check on that. And so then can we look at that? Is there a question that came from that survey? Do we have any ability to look at that?
Yes, it was in the survey.
I guess we should look at, if we can look at those survey answers, that might help. All right, so we got the sensitive area done, that piece. And we have the 7,500 gallons or larger outside sensitive areas. So does anybody remember any, I guess then we have the bottom bullets. So 50 foot we got checked off. And then, so I don't think the interface factor, I don't think we went into. The soil, air, and the wood is still out there, naturally occurring. I guess we let that go. And, my perspective on really the soil, air, and the wood is simply if there's something in the technical standards today, and there's something that the DEP uses today for nitrogen, then the groundwork should be done for that. So to say, no, you can't use them on these projects going forward, frankly, it's going to be illegal taking.
So David, I'm looking at the Excel spreadsheet with the results of the answers to Audra's survey questions. The question is, if there is technology currently in technical standards and approved by the DEEP for nitrogen removal, such as soil air or nitrogen removal systems, the DEEP nitrogen removal credit shall be, and I assume it ends there, but I shall be utilized, I believe is what it's trying to say.
Yeah.
And the answer to that was looked like all yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, and then one was with agreement from DEEP that such an allowance does not make these technologies to be considered AT systems, as was the past DEEP interpretation. And then the last one was undecided, no opinion. So it looks like there is strong consensus that be included.
Yeah, and I think if there's something in the technical
column was
standards
that?
today,
It's column AP. A is in A.
Thank
and
you.
P is in Peter.
so if something's in the technical standards today, I'm trying to keep it simple, then it's already accepted as not being problematic by any department.
Well, the only thing and I'm the one that put the comment in that Jim read, is just in the past, that was deep. So, and because we currently don't have AT, so I don't have any objection to you bringing this up for sure. But the way I see though is if that is going to be implemented the way you want, I would want to make sure that DEEP, who currently regulates AT, is on board to say that these technologies are not AT, so then we could use them for nitrogen removal.
They already wrote a letter, I know, on soil air. I don't know how they've written on the wood blend, but it's in your technical standards. If it's AT, it can't be in your technical standards. That's the reason.
I know. I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying in the past they objected because they said as soon as you start counting it for nitrogen removal, then it's AT. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I just want that taken care of.
Yeah, and so I think, David, I guess given the results of that survey question and Matt's caveat that simply adding, we believe or the recommendation is to allow for these credits, assuming DEEP doesn't have a different interpretation of whether they rise to the level of AT systems, right? So we can actually write that into the recommendation.
Please do. Yes.
Is that problematic for you, David?
I don't think so. I mean, I just am looking at it. If you're allowed to do it today in the DPH, if there's anything that you can do today by DPH rules and you can do today by DEP rules, if you shift projects to DPH from DEP, I don't think there's any logic that you couldn't, but I want to clarify.
So the recommendation could include that, that these systems are currently identified in the technical standards.
Yes.
Assuming that DEEP does not have any new definition or existing definition of AT system that would negate our utilizing these, then we can go ahead and apply for that credit, right?
Yes.
So I think we can write it in such a way that, identifies the fact that these systems are already in the technical standards, or these solutions are already in the technical standards, and Matt's concern about just ensuring that that caveat exists, that DEEP it has no contradictory position on it.
Yes, yeah, and I would say either in the technical standards or allowed by the technical standards, because somebody clever may come up with something that falls under the technical standards but is not listed specifically. You follow me? We shouldn't exclude that.
Yeah, I mean, not to get into the weeds, guys, but here's my concern is that without a very detailed explanation as to why this technology can be utilized and counted towards nitrogen reduction, there are so many AT manufacturers out there that are chomping at the bit to get into the state, and so they're gonna be upset if they can't use their technology without a reasonable explanation to say why these particular ones are not, particularly soil air, which does have, one could argue it is mechanical in some degree. It's blowing air with an air compressor. So
but
it's by definition.
Mechanicals allowed by the mechanical, if you read your technical standards, is specifically allowed, right? It says something like a septic tank, a leach field, and any mechanical device to make them work better or something.
Yeah,
so
no, I'm not necessarily
the definition of AT is cut and dry, right? Sure. Read it in your regs. It says something where the treatment occurs other than in a septic tank or a leach field.
Yeah, don't take my apprehension as a disagreement. It's just, I just wanted to give you a reason why this requires a little bit of scrutiny on our part to make sure that this can be implemented and not cause a bunch of other problems that we don't see, namely others that are going to argue against it, and then we're going to be bogged down. That's my point.
Whatever technology wants to come in, if it doesn't fall under AT, Matt, you should let them in.
Yeah, but the definition of AT, at least, again, I don't deal with AT, so I don't know what the definition is.
It's in the public health code. I mean, it's cut and dry there for everybody to see.
Yeah. Again,
this is not ambiguous in any shape or form.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to debate this, you and I, because this is not something I want to debate. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it has to be, I want to make sure that all the ducks are in a row to make this happen. I think it's worthy of bringing up for sure. and to be looked at, as long as these caveats are put in there, and that's my concern.
Okay. All right, is there anything else? So that was kind of our list of consensus items. Is there anything else that came out? Can you parse anything? I mean, I guess the first question is, we came up with a list. That survey was expanded somewhat beyond our stated list for objectives. Do we consider all of that, or do we stick with our list?
We had agreed at the last meeting that if anybody had anything else to add, that they should send it for the survey. So it should have been only, what I heard at the last meeting was Jim's list didn't have everything that we had talked about. So people were sending Audra's stuff to put on the list. So I'm a little bit confused as to what we're working off here, because we seem to be bouncing around a lot.
We're working off of the list, so it was entitled.
So the list that Jim sent out.
The list Jim
And-
sent out a while ago, and we went over that last time too, so let's be very clear, that's what we're
Yep.
working on, and we asked for other ideas, and I'm saying that survey got expanded fairly far beyond that. What does this committee think? And you said, let's allow everything in. I'm asking what everybody else thinks. We've got half an hour to.
Well, I thought we also decided we all needed a little bit of time with with the survey results. So we can determine, compare
We're
it
running out of
with
time
what,
now.
I
We got-
understand that.
So does everybody want to go through the rest of the survey results? We've got half an hour left. We've got the consensus items we wanted. I think we're gonna go over Matt's. When we get that document, I guess we have it, so we'll go over that and set up another meeting date to just make sure we're all on the same page there. That's in the works?
My opinion, the survey included many items I don't think we even had planned to discuss in this group. There was just questions about climate change, things to that sort, which we haven't even discussed at all. So, I mean, I think we can kind of put that kind of stuff aside. I don't know if you want to start dissecting all those 50 questions or not. I don't think we have the time or the energy to do that right now.
Let's focus on the nitrogen.
Yeah, let's focus on the
Yeah.
very few small, the 4 items that
So-
we just went over.
Yeah,
So,
and I think
so
what
I
you'll
think
find is a lot of where there is major consensus in that survey just kind of aligns with the recommendations that we're already looking at. I mean, to what extent do you agree that Connecticut lacks sufficient standardized, accessible empirical data on conventional subsurface septic system performance to currently support regulations? Everybody, strongly agreed that there was insufficient, data. Should the state allocate resources for centralized electronic tracking? Everybody said yes.
Yep.
Real time. Should peer-reviewed and or published information and performance data be the basis for approving advanced or alternative wastewater treatment septic system technologies in Connecticut? Everybody said yes. So I mean, these are all kind of supporting what we're already kind of concluding, right? I'm looking for things where I see like complete or most consensus here without a lot of these I mean the priorities all seem to be consistent. M, which is the question pertaining to priorities. In your view, are deep DPH and local municipalities sufficiently staffed? I don't see straight yeses or nos, but there are. It appears to be consistency that there is understaffing. Which areas should be prioritized from deep and DPH? That was all over the place. Let me try. I'm just trying to find where it's all like yeses here.
the example of the peer review one, the only reason that makes me nervous is, I have been through peer review on lots of things, and not many technologies go through actual peer review. I mean, if we're going by the typical definition. So if somebody had something in Cape Cod and they had 20 years of data and there had hundreds of systems and the Mass Test Center data and all, it's all positive, we shouldn't say no just because they don't have peer review. I mean, that would be, I don't think we're getting to that level yet, but that's what made me nervous about that question.
7,500 gallons, everybody agreed to. How supportive are you of establishing a streamlined maximum setback? Obviously, everybody seemed pretty supportive, either supportive or strongly supportive. 50 feet, looked like that was consistent, except for one person who appears to have said 100 feet, and then option 6, I'm not sure what that is. It looks like everybody agreed that there should be more study in response to the question, fluctuating groundwater levels and sea level rise. Should the state reevaluate current 18 to 24 minimum vertical separation distance? So everyone said it needed more study, more review, and couldn't answer. Here's one with all yeses. Oh, that's the one with the soil, air, and wood blend. Okay. Kind of getting towards the end here. Yeah, at quick view, so it looks like everything where there's widespread recommendation and consensus in the survey, it looks like it kind of just supports what the direction we're moving in now. I'm happy. David, maybe to Alicia's point, we have an additional meeting because I don't think we're ready to provide, or present our recommendations to the working group today, this afternoon.
Especially
that we set up another meeting and we kind of try to finalize things, allow people to look at, the survey results and see if they see anything differently than what I've concluded.
And we need Matt's.
Obviously, Matt's, what would the draft regs we need to review in totality, right? And then obviously then there's Matt's one-page document here that I guess we still have to kind of walk completely through, right?
So Matt, the one page document that would be encompassed in the document we're going to review.
I thought it was. I mean, the one that basically Sonia gave you guys, because this was originally in our last best proposal before basically everyone says no, let's hold off. So I thought it was in there. I don't know why we didn't find it, but that shouldn't be any different other than the fact that it says nitrogen now versus environmental. And then the only other difference too is we actually already accepted that 5,000 or 7,500 increase for areas outside of nitrogen sensitive areas.
Great.
So that's it. Hopefully it's the same.
So then we could for our next meeting, maybe we'll just review the survey results, go over what we've agreed to, look at your maybe red line so how are we going to go through Matt's? I mean, it's one thing for me to red line and everybody else. How do we manage that? Get that feedback together. Want to just have a document, we redline our documents and then we talk about it? Is that the most efficient, or is there some fancy way?
I think there's a fancy way. I'm not an expert at it, but like on Teams, you can have a shared document that everybody can edit and they can tell who does the edits and everything. That's not my forte, but I think that is possible.
So Peter shared a link to that where something can be uploaded. Maybe Peter can upload the document that Sonia just shared with the entire group. It's a PDF. I don't know. Can you redline or a PDF in one of those scenarios, or it needs to be converted, I presume,
I'm
to a
sure,
Word
yeah, it's
document?
got to go back to Word, but yeah, that's possible though.
So Peter, can you do that for us? Can you upload Sonia's document or the last version that is public pertaining to the DPH reg recommendations?
Is it the one that Sonia sent out?
Yeah.
The most recent one that I got?
I assume Sonia, is it the last email you sent Peter?
I sent 2 emails to you, Peter, copied you like in the last
Uh-huh.
20 minutes. The first one is the proposed regulations as they were on the actual website to comment on.
Mhm.
And the other one is the draft technical standards
And you like both of those posted?
to you guys. Yeah.
Do we need the technical standards up there, guys? David?
Say that again?
Should Peter include both the technical standards and the last version of the DPH regulation recommendations that have been made public?
I would say yes, guys, because you're going to want to see in the regulation changes, it says 12.3.1. You'll be able to see where that is. If you guys really want to see it like verbatim in the technical standards, you can see it then.
All right. And remember, we're not redlining the technical standards. We're
Right.
just redlining the draft regs.
So well, actually then just show then you don't need to rip that back. If the technical standards proposed changes were in a PDF, they could be left in a PDF, uneditable. And just that way then you guys can reference it then when you're looking at the draft regs.
Got that, Peter?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But
so we're
if
looking
anything,
to
I would
have
probably
the draft regs converted to a Word document and placed up there for all of us to redline, and then the technical standards can maintain or be left in a PDF format and posted as well.
Yep.
Can I clarify that?
Yeah,
So
that's
you
perfect.
So you guys like to have a thing where all of you guys are able to edit it at the same time, like a document?
Yes.
Ideally,
I can't put that on the web page, but I can do it through the shared OneDrive folder.
Yeah, that shared OneDrive that you provided, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll send that out right after this meeting.
Okay.
thank you. Alicia, you got anything?
Yes, so I had submitted a question because of something I had heard from all of the installers and other folks about your issues with inland wetlands commissions. Now, the reason I asked this is because I felt that the inland wetlands commission's understanding different jurisdictions on subsurface sewage and having that training might make things easier for installers and developers. But I did see some feedback that no, it's just DPH and DEP jurisdiction. So if you think all of this work is going to eliminate all of your issues with inland wetlands issue, and they don't need training on how all of the subsurface systems work, I am not going to put any work into trying to make your lives easier, because I was going to take the initiative with DPH and DEP to try to work something out so that inland wetlands commissioners are more educated. But if you guys think that they don't need that and it all falls in DEP and DPH and you're not going to continue to struggle, I'm not going to put any work into that. So just let me know. Just trying to solve a problem I've heard within this working group.
So I got to understand what you're asking. So
Yeah.
I don't have an objection to, it sounds like you're saying inland wetland people to take some of our training so that they can feel assured that we're, protective of nitrogen. Is that basically what you're saying?
What I have heard from the installers is that they have had a lot of hoops to jump through with the inland wetlands agencies. And
Yes.
what I think is important for them is to understand their role in this, because obviously it does have to go through inland wetlands agencies. I
Right.
don't believe this is part of DEP's training at this point. And having the commissioners better understand whether it's just, and I had already proposed to Kakiwik to possibly do something at their next conference to discuss their role, where it is and where it isn't, and where they can find the information, and to understand as jurisdictions are shifting and things are in limbo with some things, understand where DPH and where DEP fall in this and what their role is. I think that would make things better for installers and developers going forward, having them better educated. But I see there are some people that say, no, we don't need it because DPH and DEP are the only people that should be dealing with this. So like I said, I don't want to do any work going forward if it's not needed.
I think education on them understanding their jurisdictional boundaries is definitely well worth it for sure.
Well, that
Yes.
was my point in asking that question.
Can I just interject real quick, Alicia? Like the education is extremely important with our commissions. And one of the things is like just even educating the difference between a repair and new construction, new development. Like, so when they get involved in a repair, it may not be appropriate, but when they're involved in a new development, they can still say what they say. And you know, I think that is a struggle with the way that they're setting them, going concentrating back on septic. But just that whole repair and understanding the code and kind of not getting into design elements, like redesigning for our engineers these systems and stuff, would be helpful. Any education right now would be helpful for people. I want to say stay in their lanes, but kind of when it comes down to it at the very end.
Okay.
Just one more thing, just the caveat of, remember we're talking about public health versus environmental protection. They very well may have other issues for environmental protection versus prescriptive public health code or regulations.
Understandable. They understanding too, but they overlap dramatically. Yes.
They do. I think for us, it's not getting stuck in the middle. I'm not saying whether it is. I'm not going to weigh either way. It's just having a long, timely legal battle where developers are going to lose money and the environment's really not going to be protected, that type of thing. So, that's my 2 cents. But education is always great. And yes, we do kind of commingle, but when it comes down to it, when the legal language gets thrown around, when the third-party environmental engineer comes in, what has been happening, at least to me, is they're calling me and in some cases and trying to push us into things that are not our authority. With stormwater, not ours, guys. And is it affect a septic system? Yeah, but in general, when it's going through all the commissions, not our force in the game. So.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have one more meeting. You've got your meeting today, Sonia? Or the broader group meeting today, so we're not gonna have any formal recommendations. Unfortunately, I can't attend that meeting, so I don't know if somebody else is going to from this group. Stu?
I'm there.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm there at 2 to 3.
Greg might be gone. So do we need to present anything or not really? We could just say we're working on it.
I
Well, hold on,
think,
Greg.
whoever is there, unfortunately, I'm one of those folks who will be unable to attend this afternoon's meeting, but it can convey that, we had a constructive meeting today, and that we are in the process of identifying consensus items and we're well underway, but that we need a meeting or two to wrap up our work. I think that would be sufficient to convey.
Jim, what about, because we had already asked for next Wednesday, a week from today, to do another regs and league. I just try to keep it that time. Do you want to see if we can just do another whole meeting, or is that too much for you guys? If you want to come and report on what you're talking about
You say
now.
the whole meeting of the working group or the whole meeting?
No, because I know, we're going to have a survey. We're going to send it out to you guys. I'm not going to try to give you the summary of what's going to happen later on. But we're going to take a little time to gather that data and from you guys and put it into a format and need to share it again. So, maybe we could recommend it being a full group meeting. It's up to you guys. We got the time.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this subcommittee would therefore need to have another meeting followed by a working group meeting. So if regs and legal isn't concluding their business today as well, then obviously I think it precludes the fact that we are definitely going to need another working group meeting between now and the last working group meeting, which should take place, maybe on January 30th, right? Because February 1st, which is our deadline, falls on a Sunday. My guess and this is not a conversation for this group, but for the broader group, that we're going to come to the conclusion that our deadline is going to have to be pushed back a week or two to kind of facilitate us concluding our business. But
Well, what about trying to still, because it's only like 2 or 3 meetings left, just scheduling 2 to 3 on Wednesday as full group meetings until we're done? Would that be
I'm
too
fine
much?
with that. Yeah,
What do you
I'm
guys
fine with
think?
that.
I mean, because we already pretty much have it on our schedules from 2 to 3 on Wednesday once a week on our group end.
So could we have our meeting Wednesday morning at 10? I don't know if that works for everybody before it.
Yeah, let's figure that out first.
Morning's
And
better for me on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I have a DPH town hall meeting from 12 to 2 on Wednesday.
so are you saying that you'd be unable to, well, so that you could do 10
I
to
could go to
12
morning.
technically for the morning?
Yeah, the morning's
All right.
fine.
Yeah, I'm available Wednesday morning as well on the 21st. Looks like Alicia's giving a thumbs up. She is too. Greg?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. And is Stu still on? I don't see his box here.
No, neither.
All right. Peter, on your end, would that work? 10 o'clock, 10 to 12?
So next week, Wednesday,
Yeah.
21st, 10 to 12, the nitrogen. Yeah, that works. Right. Or
Okay.
yeah,
That's
that
for the
works.
nitrogen. I think we'll have to figure out the wider working group later. And Sonia, maybe you, John, and I can coordinate tomorrow morning or something like that. All right. So I'm not sure if Stu is going to be at the afternoon meeting. Greg, would you feel comfortable just kind of, giving a short update about the fact that we need to continue our work at the afternoon meeting?
I would love to. I don't know that I'm going to be around. I have to leave the office in a couple minutes, and I don't know when I might return. So
okay. So Sonia, would you feel comfortable just letting folks know that our working group technically?
I will try not to say anything to get me in trouble, but sure, I'll just say that you guys
I
have a
appreciate that.
conversation.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'll also put it to the group as we're thinking about trying to potentially go weekly, and that I will get back to them on Thursday after you, Jim, and I talk. Okay.
Yeah, and you can
I think
let the group
we
know
have
that
those
we've already
four.
scheduled our next subcommittee meeting to expedite things.
I mean, we have those four points that we at least we have consensus on, which I think, out of all this, I'm kind of surprised. So they will go over Matt's, and I mean, I'm surprised how much progress, frankly, we made in the last few weeks. So looks promising.
So, the one thing, by the way, before we conclude, and I don't know if I'm opening up a can of worms, but Matt's document, both Stu and I raised concerns with subsection 3, F subsection 3, and our hopes that might be removed. I don't know if there was consensus with that or not. So maybe we leave that for folks to consider and, take that up at our next meeting. But I would think that's one spot that I have a concern in there. And I don't know if that's, again, a consensus item or not.
Well, we're gonna see that in his document specifically, aren't we? How it reads and,
Yeah, we'll see it in the larger document as well.
yeah, that's kind of my head. I don't know. I'm not necessarily in agreement either.
Hmm.
I think Matt had said that the language would not change from where we've been or where the deed. The language remains the same so that we don't put some new, word or legal theory into it. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Matt?
well, here, it has to be consistent, right? So listen, so what it currently says right now, forget about nitrogen. It just says if the neighboring property has the same owner, then you look at it, the total design flow as one. And so, of course, if we're going to use that premise, then we have to do the same thing with the nitrogen. You can't exclude it from that because you've already set the premise. And I told you, I agree with you guys that maybe that requires more work down the road, but that's just too big of a fish to deal with right now, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
that's why
that's
it's
in
there.
the public health code, that language?
No, it came from Deep. Deep has it in their statutes. It's a Deep statute that talks about contiguous properties and jurisdiction. So
Okay.
when we initially met with Deep, to get these regulations over, they insisted on that we now formally include that in our regulations. So it is defined.
Okay.
You'll see that defined.
All right, well, I'll
Contiguous
take a
property.
look for, I mean, if you're saying same person is expressly, listed as part of that in the deep statutes, I'll take a look and.
Well, I don't know that, Jim. So that's an attorney thing. So if you found something that's inconsistent, please
Yeah.
let us know.
Right,
Because
yeah. I don't know if this
that's
is new or not. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take a peek.
Thank you.
All right, that's fair. All right, so we'll just leave that as an open item.
All right,
All right.
we finished 6 minutes early for the first time in our lives.
If you guys want to continue on, I gotta get to the board meeting.
No, nothing personal.
Hmm.
Well, anything else anybody has before we go do something else?
No.
All right, well, thanks for all the effort. I think maybe we're actually making some progress.